Audio Jungle.
James Clapper expressed on this issue of the reports of a back-channel discussion with Jared Kushner and the Russians.
I have to say that without specifically affirming or confirming these conversations, since even though they're in the public realm, they're still classified. But just from a theoretical standpoint, I will tell you that my dashboard warning light was clearly on, and I think that was the case with all of us in the intelligence community, very concerned about the nature of these approaches to the Russians.
So, Juliet, are warning lights, alarm signals going off for you?
Yes, I think absolutely. And you saw that across a bipartisan group of former national security and intelligence agents and leaders. So just to Brian's point, I absolutely believe this story at this stage. I mean, if it were false, they would have come out relatively quickly. I believe that, for whatever the motivation was, and let's say it was, as the New York Times reported, it was about discussions about Syria. I'll give Jared Kushner the benefit of the doubt. The naivete, hubris, arrogance, fill in the word of wanting to communicate with the Russians on their intelligence assets is just so shocking to most people looking at this. And so then I think it's fair to say there's legitimate reasons for there to be questions about Jared Kushner's motivations. I believe, I don't know him, but the idea that he only has America's interest in mind, I think it's fair to question that at this stage, because the connections on financial dealings with his family and other issues that have come up in this investigation and reporting, I think it is fair game at this stage to question Jared Kushner's motivations based on the action flows, right?
Yeah, and so Julia, would these questions also be grounds for pulling his security clearance?
Yeah, I think so at this stage, and that's going to be a push politically. But I think if this weren't political, there'd be absolutely no question that a man like this security clearance would be pulled. I mean, in other words, if he were not a political appointee, but he were, say, a deputy, a deputy at an agency with no political backing, you wouldn't even, literally, you would not wait 2 minutes. It would be pulled because of the complications and the political nature of this. There's obviously going to be a debate. But I think at this stage, look, he's damaged right now. He cannot satisfy his obligations to the president. But let's just be clear here, his obligations to the United States with this lingering over him. And then, of course, we have to remember, we're now in this investigation, we're in the White House now. This is not like a Carter Page weird, those hangers-on that are easily dismissed from the campaign. Jared Kushner has security clearance, and he is the top advisor to the president. I don't see how he stays if they actually want to move on. I don't see it.
Gotcha. This was Representative Adam Schiff of California on this report.
I can't confirm or deny whether they're accurate, but if they are, it's obviously very concerning. And as you said at the top of the show, it's all about the context. John Brennan testified this week that what concerned him wasn't simply that the Russians were having contact with people associated with the Trump campaign, that the Russians have contacts with Americans quite routinely, but it was the context of an election campaign in which the Russians had been intervening to help Donald Trump, to hurt Hillary Clinton. And of course, if these reports are accurate, right after that campaign, after that intervention, to have the president's son-in-law, a key player within the Trump organization, trying to establish a back channel with the Russians through a Russian diplomatic facility, you have to ask, well, who are they hiding the conversations from?
All right, so Ellis Kushner has already said that he would, cooperate fully. He would testify on the Hill. He would fully cooperate. So perhaps might this be any explanation about this report? We'll just have to wait, and it'll come at that time when he testifies?
Well, I will sign on to Brian's weird, although probably for different reasons. So let's parse this just a little bit. We know that 48 hours almost after this story broke in the Washington Post, there has still not been any clear denial from anybody connected at the White House, from Jared, from his attorney, from the president's new lawyer, from anyone.
McMaster just said, you know, not going to comment.
He doesn't remember,
right
and Jamie Garlick, the private attorney for Jared, said he doesn't really remember all the details of these relationships. But by the way, if you send out John Kelly, in his strongest defense, which we played just a moment ago, is that, well, Jared's really a good guy. He may be a great guy, but I don't know that answers any of this.
That in general there are back channels.
Yeah. And the notion, I mean, that's kind of the defense that you issue when you have absolutely no other defense. It's right up there with, you know, he's a really good dad. You know, it's, well, it may be true, but it doesn't necessarily address the thing that you are most concerned about.
So Brian, you don't see that it is problematic that very little has been said, that there hasn't been any kind of explanation?
Well, I think they're looking into it, and they'll get there. But I think making these logical leaps from this shred of information...
Can it ever be too long, you know, in a lapse of time before they get there?
Well, sure, but, I mean, they literally just landed very late last night. So, you know, they apparently are having meetings to address this now. But I think making the logical leap from this one shred of information that Jared was somehow doing things, you know, to benefit himself monetarily or doing things that were, you know, treasonous or something crazy like that. I mean, that is just a wild allegation and just totally speculation. And it doesn't make a lot of sense.
All right, Juliet.
I want to be clear here, because I do think that people like Brian defending the White House tend to sort of say things about national security people like, I never use the word treasonous, it's literally just the fact of it, Brian. I mean, in other words, if the facts are true, which they haven't been denied, that there is someone close to the president with the highest security clearance who has made overtures, and it's not a back channel, I think people are using that word incorrectly, has made overtures in what capacity we don't know, because it was the transition, to Russia, a country that had been going after us during the campaign, going after not us Democrats, but the democratic institutions. I think just the facts of it raise suspicions. I don't know, you know, motive and why he did it. That's what the investigation is for. But I just want people to just look at the facts and the actions.
The reported facts that line, whether it's called a back channel line or some other means of communication, would actually take place in a Russian installation. A Russian installation in the U.S., right, in connection with Kremlin. That's what the reported facts we know.
But the very fact that this sort of a suggestion or this kind of conversation leaked suggests maybe we do need some back channels. My goodness, if everything is leaking out like this, I mean, that's crazy. They need to be able to have confidential conversations with countries, including Russia, to address issues like Syria and things like that. And if everything's going to be leaking out, I mean, my gosh, they got to figure out how to plug these leaks.
Thank goodness, though, guys. Thank goodness for the leak. Thank goodness for the leaks here, right? That's the only way any of us would know anything. And by the way, the suggestion that somehow or another they've been in a bubble for the last 9 days and couldn't really respond properly until now. I mean, I'm pretty sure they have telephones over there in Europe and the Middle East. And had there been a news
conference, then perhaps some more questions might have been asked too.
There was plenty of time. Plenty of time.
Who knows? All right, Brian, Ellis, Juliet, thank you so much. Appreciate that.